With all the overwhelming excitement surrounding Mario Kart World, even despite the loud criticism regarding that rather questionable price tag, it really puts into perspective how universally beloved this series has become, and it's earned this passionate audience through generations of offering its unique experience to young fans. Everyone has that beloved Mario Kart they grew up with. You, your older brother, your dad, your dog, Grandpa's ashes. Now, DS and Wii seem to currently be the most rose-tinted games, and I'm part of that problem, but I think the oldest Mario Kart game in that regard would be Mario Kart 64. Super Mario Kart does have its fans, but nowadays has a lot more negative reception. 64, on the other hand, has layers of nostalgia, given it's on the brink of 30 years. The 2010s seemed to be the peak of Mario Kart 64 fanfare, and it made sense. Those who had the N64 play a big part in their childhood were now young adults who had a strong internet presence. Think of YouTubers along the likes of, Nathaniel Bandy, Scott the Woz, JonTron. They ate this game for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and honestly, I can't really blame them. After all, I also adored this game as a kid. I played on the Wii Virtual Console because I'm not old, and it was an experience I never had before. Playing against my siblings, enduring through Rainbow Road together, and acting like complete buffoons in Block 4. So with my personal experience combined with the influence from the YouTubers I watched, I was convinced that without a doubt, Mario Kart 64 is a classic gem that will endure the ages. Then a couple years go by, I realized that I haven't played Mario Kart 64 in a while. I was in that one teenager phase where you're nostalgic for elementary school, not realizing you still have it pretty well. So I went and got myself a real Mario Kart 64 cartridge for my Nintendo 64 console to re-experience a fondly remembered childhood game. And it went like this. So, I'm sure you guys have that one game in your childhood that tragically doesn't hold up. I think Mario Kart 64 is mine. Not only does it play much worse than I had remembered, but for the majority of my playthrough, I had a pretty miserable time. I'd even go as far to say that 64, in hindsight, is the weakest link of the Mario Kart series. Now, I'm not just saying this to correct all the hype it got or be in some sort of counterculture. I mean, I'm yet another victim to the Mario 3 and Ocarina of Time cults. But it seems like with my Mario Kart reviews, I end up being the guy who doesn't fit in. But it's only because I have a lot to say about these games, and it tends to lead me down a different path. So while I'm definitely going to get quite slanderous, and I admit it's going to be kind of fun, it's only fair that I give it a full, honest overview, like I did with the last two games we covered. And I do have some genuine strong praises for this game, so hopefully Nathaniel Bandy and Scott the Woz will be mad at me. JonTron can be mad at me though, I don't really care. Mario Kart 64, like its predecessor, was quite an accomplishment for its time. This was 1996. Nintendo had only just dipped its feet into three-dimensional waters. Their first outing with Super Mario 64 came out as a pretty solid game, despite it being held together by popsicle sticks and Elmer's glue. It's a miracle this shit even works. But there was another difficult task at hand, a sequel to one of the biggest Super Nintendo games, Super Mario Kart, now an actual 3D and not some hocus-pocus shenanigans. Its working title was Super Mario Kart R, which stood for... fuck, I don't know. God damn it! While they would eventually get comfortable and optimize this new 3D space, they weren't quite there yet, and lots of techniques were used to work around the hardware. 4 players was a lot on screen, let alone 7 CPUs in single player, so to save memory they created the character models with the billboarding technique, where they made 2D sprites that simply looked like 3D, and changed depending on the camera angle. Stuff like this showed that development was a huge balancing act between making sure it's fun and playable, while making things run smoothly. So even though I'm going to be pretty harsh later on, I have to give credit where credit is due. Mario Kart 64 came out, which I know that's the bare minimum, but reminder, popsicle sticks, Elmer's glue, the omnipresence of Siggy Shiggy. Getting a 3D racing game out this early in the 3D era is something to definitely admire. It's very impressive as a Nintendo 64 game, but how is it as a Mario Kart game? Mario Kart 64 is a sequel after all, so let's take a look at how they expand upon Super Mario Kart, what changed for the better and what changed for the worse. First, let's take a look at that character list. I thought Super had a good selection of 8 characters, and 64 pretty much took that same roster, but slightly tweaked it to have more relevant faces. The brothers, the Princess, Toad, Bowser, and Yoshi have all been promoted to the Black Void for them to do nothing but blink. DK Jr. is back too, but his balls must have dropped between then and now because now he's just DK. Donkey Kong Country came out a few years before, N64, and Rare really knocked it out of the park with their take on Donkey Kong. So much so that Nintendo would use these Kongs under the Mario name going forward. But I guess they didn't know how to model him yet, so they actually had to get Rare's help for that, because unlike Nintendo, these guys actually took Gorilla Anatomy class in community college. And as for Koopa Troopa, he got the boot and Wario took his place. Now this is gonna sound mean, but even though I mained Koopa in the last game, it wasn't because he was Koopa, rather he had the best handling. So I'm not losing sleep over him getting cut. In fact, quite the opposite, because it made room for Wario. And a little piece of trivia, Kamek was actually going to be a racer, but since, you know, he's a wizard, so he took up like 50 megabytes, so he had to be replaced by DK, since apes take up less storage than wizards. The different stats are a little more simplified, with instead of having 4 pairs of archetypes, they're fully categorized in 3 weight classes. The brothers are still the balanced middle weights. Peach, Toad, and Yoshi are lightweights, slightly faster top speed, considerably faster acceleration, but they get pushed around easily. And you have the defensive heavyweights, a bit slower acceleration, but your turning is tighter and they'll be the ones doing the pushing. There's also Toad being the super lightweight and Bowser being the super heavyweight, serving as extremes for their weight classes. I'm telling you right now, the lightweights will be appealing at first, but you are going to grow to hate them. The way they get bullied by everyone and everything is going to drive you up the wall. After playing with each character, I think my go-to will either be Bowser or Wario. They have the luxury of allowing you to play the game normally, plus the slower build-up speed isn't noticeable enough to make the gameplay feel sluggish. I'm not sure why I singled out DK, it must be his aura, but I think I'll play Toad once in a blue moon purely for his angelic voice. And yeah, this is the first Mario Kart to have voice acting, and what makes it especially charming in this game is that they're still figuring out the voices for some of these guys, with Luigi and Peach having deeper voices, Toad missing his rasp and just sounding like a child, Yoshi just making variations of the Yoshi sound, but I especially love Bowser here. He actually sounds pretty terrifying because this was before they committed to his goofy side, so he's mostly just a creature. What I liked about this era of Mario games is that their cast of characters are still pretty small, so they mainly stuck with this group for all their spin-offs. It felt like they were all in a sort of friend group. They'd all move into a content house together, and then they'd all move out 6 months later because one of them got into drama. Now with our character and course selected, we get dropped into our first race and... Oh, he's right here. He's right here. No! Yes! Wait, what? No, I'm not ready for this. I don't want to talk about it. It's too soon. I'm not mentally prepared to tackle this yet. Can we talk about something else, like, you know, user interface? Yay! With having just about the same abilities as before, that leaves a lot of buttons on the N64 controller not being used. So they had those leftover buttons be used as miscellaneous widgets and doodads, because Siggy Shiggy loves his widgets and doodads. The L button changes the music volume. Not sure why you'd want to mute it, as I think the music plays a big part in the overall experience, but if you really want the immersive karting experience, here you go, I guess. And as for the C buttons, up and down increase your field of vision, which is actually a pretty nice thing to have, especially in this game where nobody respects personal space. And left and right gives you various UI changes. You have a map by default, but you can change it to a speedometer. I mean, it does help you have a better understanding of how fast you're going, but other than that, why? And why this over a map? Being able to prepare for approaching racers or letting me know you're going fast. Yeah, I am going fast. It's a racing game. There's also alternative map design. Oh god, no. No. So this one replaces all the important information on screen and it's even more distracting. Get that shit off. Who thought this was a good idea? Oh, right. Most of these can be boiled down to they're neat, but not particularly helpful. They're just here if you want to be quirky. But let's get to something that matters, the items. And I gotta say, what a huge glow up. Almost every new edition became staples, and for good reason. Mushrooms, green shells, and red shells can come in threes. It's useful for those who are behind and only one of these won't cut it. Though I can't say this entirely applies to the red shells. The red shells are really weird in 64. You can tell they tried to make their pathfinding better with the sharper movement, but it's actually even worse now. They work like a miracle in open parts like the field in Yoshi Valley, but if there's remotely any wall nearby, they spearhead right into it. Good luck hitting anyone on Choco Mountain that isn't a foot in front of you. Wait, sorry, this is supposed to be the nice section. There's also the banana bunch. Don't mistake it for the triple bananas or you're a fake gamer. That one is 3 bananas while the bunch is 5. It's pretty fun, I'm not gonna lie. It might seem broken from having that many hit points, but they balance it out by releasing all the bananas when you hit an opponent from behind. And I'll never get tired of that bowling pin sound it makes. There's also the fake item box, and this is easily one of the better designs for it because it actually looks like an item box. You might actually trick someone when placed right. I'll never understand the fall off of the fake item box. On the souls of everyone watching, nobody saw this on the track and was like, ooh boy, time to get an item. And then there's the golden mushroom that allows infinite boost for a short window. And I think this is the best it's ever been because it lets you spam your character's voice clips. And the boom makes you invisible and steals an item from another player's box. Cool idea, but to be honest, I found the invisibility more useful than the item I steal. Wow, a green shell and 5th, you're too kind. All around, some solid upgrades to existing items and decent new concepts, but none of them really took the world by storm. Well, except for this. This was the birth of the blue shell, or the spiny shell. I'm just gonna call it the blue shell because it is indeed a shell that is blue. It has its worshippers, it has its detractors. Pretty much, you love the blue shell if you're using it, and you hate the blue shell when you're the victim. It's a very bold idea for an item, one that charges after one specific target, the leading racer, potentially having them fall behind the crowd and costing them the entire race. Now, one might argue against the blue shell that it punishes the player for doing well, that it interrupts the flow and excitement of front-running the race, but I think partially the reason why this was made was to address the problem of front-running. The fact that items will almost always give first place some defense means red shells aren't going to be of much effect. Once a red shell takes out their banana, they can just get another banana. It undercuts the purpose of items and the game is going to get boring. So not only does the blue shell correct this, but it also establishes something about Mario Kart that made it truly special among other racing games. Its spontaneity and unpredictability. If you want to lead the race the whole time without disruption, you'll have to look elsewhere now, because Mario Kart is now a series of curveballs. A perfect race is no longer ideal. Even when you're charging ahead, distant from the chaos in the middle of the pack, there's a certain colored shell with your name on it, and the commitment to chaos is one of the best things the series has ever developed, and the introduction of the blue shell deserves props for starting it. Mario Kart 64 also deserves props for its expansion on the multiplayer. Its selling point was demonstrating the ability to play with up to 3 other people. I could really see this being a huge deal back in the day. I mean, that's a whole family that can play together. I've talked about how great of a time it was playing with my siblings back in my years of shitting myself, and I'd say it holds up decently well after playing with a friend recently. Grand Prix is the ideal mode to play with one other person because one-on-one versus mode really isn't as fun as it sounds. It's 3 to 4 players when it really reaches its peak. You have enough people causing a muck, and it'll be enough yelling to give you a migraine afterwards. It's perfect. Also, I find it funny how they just have random bombs move across the road to make up for less racers. The draw distance makes them a lot scarier from the way they pop into view. The other multiplayer mode is Battle. Now, in my Super Mario Kart review, I made a passing comment that I'm not a huge fan of Battle mode, so I guess I'll take this time to explain why. It is a bit of fun, I'm not gonna lie, but I think hitting opponents with items as the focal point holds back my enjoyment. The items are highly chance-based and not always accurate as an offensive tool, which is fine for races when they're merely support and your driving skills are doing the heavy lifting, but when it's the other way around and my favorite part of racing isn't all that important, it's hard to stick around with this mode. I don't think it's executed well most of the time either. They always add some bullshit constraints like forced team modes or time limits, or even kick you out after a few matches. I mean, if they don't want me to stick around, then I fucking won't. But there's got to be some game where they really stuck Battle mode to the wall. And Mario Kart 64 is it. Battle mode is fantastic here, and it's easily one of the best parts of the whole game. Ironically, the fact that there's not much to it actually makes it the most free. It's basic balloon battle, you get eliminated after 3 hits and the last man standing wins. Without time limits or any further rules to worry about, nothing is holding back the hunt between players. It's an unfiltered fight to the death with your friends, and it couldn't be any better. My favorite part comes into play when there's at least 3 players. When a player loses their last balloon and the game is still going, they can move around as a bomb to get one last hit on someone before they're out for good. You can get revenge on whoever killed you, and it makes for both tremendous fear and hilarity. Like, just the imagery of someone coming from the dead and chasing you as a little bomb car is comedy gold. And it's such a genius way to give eliminated players a chance to make an impact instead of just waiting for the match to finish. The bomb car could even decide the winner if their target was down to their last balloon, and that's really the best part. The 4 arenas are overall pretty basic, but I'd say it works in favor of the battle mode experience, since it allows things to take course naturally and not have some big gimmick in the way of things. Big Donut is the only one that's actively hurting the match. A giant circle goes against the whole idea of an arena. Chances are your friend is just going to chase you around the circle Looney Tunes style, because you're putting yourself at a huge risk to try to turn the other way around whoever's chasing you. This one sucks. Why did it come back? Twice. Double Decker is a decent one though. I like the simplistic texture work for some reason. It's like we're on a Lego set. It could be a lot smaller though. It's definitely designed around 4 players. Block Fort needs to be preserved in the ancient text. Being made up of 4 different structures, each player can make these sort of their base camps and can duel each other across the bridges connecting them. They designed this map to create specific fight scenes and it's incredible for that. And lastly is Skyscraper. Okay, I gotta say something. These names suck. It's like these were the file names of the maps and they just couldn't be bothered. Because there's no way someone sat down, pondering what to call the Skyscraper map and was like, Eureka! Anyways, this is a good map. Simple but effective. And the fact that you keep falling and falling down the building makes it all the funnier pushing someone off. When I played Mario Kart 64 at a friend's house years ago, I think we played versus for like 30 minutes and battle mode for over an hour because it's simply perfectly built for the most hilarious battles. Everything from the arena setting the stage for climactic standoffs to the spite bomb mechanic painting a bittersweet story of revenge. Battle mode is old school multiplayer at its finest, and I highly recommend getting some buddies and playing Mario Kart 64 for this alone. The next part of this review is going to be a highlight of my personal favorite aspect of Mario Kart 64. What gives me something about this game to think about fondly, no matter what I think while I'm actually playing it. Mario Kart 64 has incredible vibes. Despite not even being alive during the N64 era, I have a huge adoration for these games. And it's because of their bizarre physicality unlike any other era of video games. I'm of course talking about the low poly graphics, pointy, geometric environments, blocky character models, blending of 2D sprites, and the highly compressed textures. These create a very weird looking game. One might even say it looks like shit. And they're right. And I love it. The game developers trying to compromise cutting-edge graphics for the super limited 3D engine unintentionally created this wholly fascinating visual style. I just adore the look of 3D environments in their most reduced state, seeing what games look like between So Retro and Nintendo Hire This Man. It gives these games a strange atmosphere that changes what readings people get from it, and if Super Mario 64 is Exhibit A, Mario Kart 64 is Exhibit B. I believe what made this game so special to me wasn't how impeccable the gameplay was or the controls felt, but how it looks, how it sounds, and what they made me feel. Its atmosphere is the strongest of any Mario Kart, and it's solely due to being an N64 game. The race courses need to have simplified geometric set pieces, and leave it at that so the game doesn't run like Mario Maker 2 Online. Because of this, they don't feel like these fully fleshed out locations, but rather they feel more like the idea of the location. Calamari Desert, for example, is supposed to be this Wild West desert with the distant tall canyons and the train tracks, but that's all there is to it, so it ends up feeling like an abstract of a Wild West desert. Mario Raceway feels the same, with feeling like only the idea of a Mario-themed go-kart track, with Mario symbols like the hat, the spinning sign, and the mushroom you drive around that are just kind of pasted somewhere in this simple grassy terrain. A good amount of these levels just feel like proof of concepts, and while that's a detriment to the level design, it works in favor with the atmosphere. These incomplete visions of an environment leaves the imagination to complete it for you. You get to interpret what's not given at face value. Like with the mostly blank horizons of these levels, it makes you believe that these locations are in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. Koopa Troopa Beach could be this island isolated from the rest of the world out in the ocean, plenty of space to industrialize. Sherbet Land could just be this desolate patch of the Arctic that's been only recently discovered as this penguin sanctuary. Toad's Turnpike with this stretching highway and distant light from the sky makes it feel like all these cars are going through their late night commute home, and maybe their infinite cycling is supposed to reflect how prolonging these commutes can feel. Okay, I could be reading too much here, but that just goes to show how magical these levels feel. The way they get your imagination stirring not only from the abstract visuals, but also the surreal soundtrack. Every Mario Kart has an amazing soundtrack, and the fact that each of them have a different music style has me revisit each of them every now and then. I loved Super Mario Kart for its raw and somewhat amateur sound chip, but Mario Kart 64's feels like an astral projection. It felt like they went for a more ethereal sound, and that could not have matched the look of the game any better. They put a ton of reverb on the instruments. It kinda gives off that we're hearing a live band on stage or something. The N64's sound capabilities were strong enough to evolve from the chiptune's bleeps and bloops, but they weren't quite ready for live performances. So you get these synthetic sounds that aren't actually instruments, but are merely mimicking the sound of an instrument. So they ride that line between sounding real and fake and making it sound a bit strange. And also the way these melodies are orchestrated feel a lot more emotional than most other Mario Kart music tracks. Now, I'd like to say that I'm not a music theorist, I'm purely going on gut feelings here, but from what I've found, lots of these tracks sort of have this structure where the melody holds on a certain note. Koopa Troopa Beach is one of many examples. Listen to this. You can hear that they sort of linger on that last note, like the melody pauses for you to really take in the backing strings. And you can hear that same sort of structure for the Snow Courses, Calamari, Toad's Turnpike, and of course Rainbow Road. All of these soundtracks give you such a whimsical and comfortable feeling. But Bowser's Castle is a great example of achieving the opposite, twisting the atmospheric style to make the most unsettling track in the series. That synthetic choir used to make Toad's Turnpike feel like this chill nighttime drive is now being used in a creepier context of this generally off-putting castle. Such a powerful soundtrack as a whole. I feel like this is the closest Mario gets to Vaporwave. These two happen to be my favorite music in the whole series, only underneath Big Blue, obviously. And only recently has Koopa Troopa Beach grown on me, to the point that it now follows under this list. But not far behind is the credits theme. This one is just... any words will fail how I feel about this song. This entire credits sequence is a culmination of how 64's vibes are off the charts. One final view of all of these bizarre landscapes, accompanied by music that takes the best bits of my two favorite soundtracks. It not only feels like the end of a racing marathon, but the end of a wholly unique experience. Oh my god. Why does it do that? There was this album that was released shortly after the game came out called Mario Kart 64 on Club Circuit, and it features a bunch of sick remixes of the soundtrack that I can only describe as aggressively 90s. They even use voice clips to the beat of the song. I love it when music does that kind of stuff. It all kind of feels like what the soundtrack would be if the original N64 used CDs instead of cartridges. It's all uploaded on YouTube, and I highly recommend giving them a listen. The icing on the cake are these menu designs, these crusty texts behind black borders, and the background being different color tints over the title screen. It looks pretty amateur, but that's exactly why I love it. It's like me creating a Google slide presentation for school. I appreciate the graphic design being at my level, and it at least gives these menus a bit more personality. It's a small thing in the grand scheme of things, but it can go a long way to give your game personality. Both of these title screen renders look great too. In general, I love this era of N64 Mario renders. The energy emitting from Mario Kart 64, this callback to an older age of games, its ability to create almost psychedelic sounds and sights, it's without a doubt where 64 gets most of its appeal, and I will fully stand with the fans in this regard. Easily the best part about the game. Well, that or battle mode. Those bridges in Block Fort go kinda hard. But let's not forget, the best part about games is that you not only get to see it with your eyes and hear it with your ears, but you can plant yourself in these imaginative worlds with your crusty fingers. And if the presentation are anything to go by, I think we're in for a great time. So let's take a look at the meat and potatoes of the game, the closest it has to a campaign or adventure mode. Grand Prix. Let's give her a whirl. Alright, no more delaying the inevitable. Okay, it's finally time to grab a hold of the wheel. I'm not too fond of this wheel. The controls feel pretty rough. The basics are fine, steering left and right feel decent enough, but it's a bit stiff. You're not going to turn as sharp as you would like. What the... Okay, not sure what happened there. Oh well, must have been like a banana I didn't see or something. Well, if you don't turn sharp enough, that's what drifting is for, right? It sure is. The drifting is even worse. Drifting in Super Mario Kart, while it took a hot minute to get used to, was really satisfying to take advantage of with how sharp it makes you turn. 64 on the other hand, is smoother, which could be seen as a good thing, but it's to a degree where it doesn't feel all that beneficial over simply turning. Instead, it's used to get a boost if you keep up a drift for long enough. This is what makes the drifting so weird in this game, because it's technically the first game to have mini turbo boosts, but it really doesn't feel like it. There's not enough visual flair or feedback. In modern games, you get sparks shooting out beneath your cart that get progressively more intense, and they make the release feel super exciting with flames shooting out the exhaust and a significant speed boost. It's enough stimulation to get you addicted to it. 64 does practically the same thing on a functional standpoint, just without any or all sauce. Apart from the E's that come out, which I can't lie is pretty good. There's no visual cues of building up and releasing speed, and it doesn't help that having a 2D sprite in a 3D space makes it harder to represent acceleration. I don't know, you don't feel like you did something cool, unless you like the E's. I like the E's. Not enough to save it, sadly. Your movement in general, just feeling too stiff, removes a lot of the excitement that Mario Kart is supposed to have. Okay, you guys saw that, right? I swear there was nothing on the road that made me slip. Okay, you know what? Whatever. I could just be coping. The way your cart feels is only the start of these problems, because there's also how it interacts with other things. You can get knocked over from the blow of the wind. Touching these palm trees spin you out. Hitting a wall from a jump flips you around. Going down slopes is a whole dramatic thing. Now, yeah, I guess from a physician's perspective, it makes sense that impact with these would cause all this knockback, but I think making the game not obnoxious is more important than making accurate collision physics. Okay, what the fuck is happening? I literally didn't hit anything and I burned out. I'm gonna look into this to make sure I'm not going insane. Okay. So, apparently, because Mario Kart 64 is just so quirky with its old school charm, if you turn left and right in succession too much, you swerve around and lose control for a bit. They penalize you for moving the stick a bit too much. What? Are you expecting some generational mysterious Mr. Enter rant? Well, I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. This is easily the worst mechanic in any Mario Kart game, or at least the worst that doesn't push legal boundaries. I think implementing something detrimental to basic movement is horrendous, but I simply don't want to waste too much energy talking about it. I just want to say one last thing. I don't want to hear, but it's realistic to go-kart physics, Mr. Strawman. I don't play Mario Kart for realistic go-kart physics. When Mario punches a brick with his hand, I don't want him to just stand there and wail in the pain from punching a brick with his hand, because this is super fucking Mario. So the player character's behavior is a bit of an embarrassment, but how about the others? Do the computer players behave any better now? Do you guys remember when I made a huge fuss in the Super Mario Kart review about how the computer players were the worst they've ever been? Well, it turns out that there might be a bigger fish, because the computers from 64 really give them a run for their money of being the most obnoxious assholes. What makes these computers in particular so infamous is their delightful use of rubber banding, where their aggression dynamically changes based on how well you're doing. Now, it's a good thing to have dynamic AI in these kind of games, but rubber banding is pretty easy to screw up, and it's really important not to. Ideally, they should naturally creep up behind you when you've been front running for long enough, and once they've been ahead of you for long enough, they should tone down their aggression, but not so much that they become a pushover. It's a mechanic that needs a lot of fine-tuning, but it'll be worth it in the end because you've programmed engaging but reasonable CPU opponents. Else you'll get Mario Kart 64, the game that fucking hates you. While they do have the computers ramp up in aggression as you stay ahead, they never, ever know when to quit. When one of them is on your tail and you take care of him, 20 seconds later, another one will introduce themselves. Or hell, maybe it's the same guy from 20 seconds ago. The only thing that's being put into account with the programming of these rapscallions is that, is Mr. Playerman ahead? Then throw someone at him. It can happen anywhere, at any time. And this can lead to your victory being stolen from you at the very end of the race. Any and all efforts throughout that entire race can be tossed in the bin thanks to cracked up Yoshi over here. To call these computers a nuisance is a huge understatement. But is it really worse than those from Super Mario Kart? Easily the worst part about that game? Yes, they cheat. Yes, they're constantly pulling their special items out of their asses. And they don't even have them in 64. But here's the thing with these fellas. If you're goated enough at Super Mario Kart, you can actually make these guys eat your dust. Sure, the game keep telling you to get good, get good, get good is awful. But you know what? They're right. You can get good. 64 is on the contrary. It's telling you that you can't get good. Just look at this big lead I have right now that I worked hard for, by the way, and watch that map. What is this Sonic EXE bullshit? Thanks to your leading position you earned from skill being constantly corrected, it feels like nothing you do ever matters. Getting better at this game only has the AI go from bullies to pests. I don't take back what I said in the Super Mario Kart review. Those computer players are still sick in the head. It just hadn't occurred to me just how much hell they would bring in the sequel. It's hard to say which one is worse, honestly. They each have their own unique way of chipping away at my sanity, but hey, I guess that's what makes getting the gold trophy all the more rewarding.
Yes!
I wouldn't even say that, because the scoring system is whatever happens, happens, really. So here's how they distribute these points. First gets 9, second gets 6, third gets 3, fourth only gets 1, and anyone lower gets jack shit. Super was the exact same way, but there it felt like you needed a good fight for the highest final score. Meanwhile, let's take a look at how I did in the Mushroom Cup. Got a first place victory in Luigi Raceway, fell into second in Moo Moo Farm, got another second in Koopa Troopa Beach, and I really fumbled the bag in Calamari Desert with fourth. I only got one actual win, so to me, this is not worth a gold trophy. Why is this the case when the score distribution is the exact same as before? God damn, it's the computer players again. If I could once again defend these hell spawns, at the very least, the character that was fucking with you was consistent. They would almost always get second. And everyone else also felt like they had a general position they were designed to finish in. It made it so everyone had a consistent threat level, and that there would always be one or two opponents that had a high score counter you had to beat. Oh my god, this is how bad things have become. I have to give credit to these little shits. Because of the spontaneous nature of 64's opponents, there's no designated person for each position. So if someone was acting as your rival for the first 2 rounds, but the game decided to have someone who's in the back of the crowd act aggressive, it puts your rival in a low position where they get 0 points, and they become a complete joke. You have one job, and it's to fuck with me, and you can't even do that right. If anyone can be some hotshot, it leads to these insane gaps between scores. Since the difference between 9 and 0 points is 4 positions, so you getting that top score doesn't necessarily have to be because you had consistent wins, but just because Donkey Kong was inconsistent. But you know what? Even though these cups are a mess, at least I'm working for something. It could all be worth it from the satisfaction of opening our way to new content. Characters, carts, race courses, all that fun stuff. So maybe it actually isn't about the journey, it's about the destination. With 64's Grand Prix, it's all about reaping the rewards. Which is none. Almost everything in this game is given to you from the start. At the very least, they had you unlock the special cup, but not here. You know, it doesn't really feel like a special cup when they just hand it out like it's the Mushroom Cup. The only things you unlock is after winning every cup in 150cc, being an alternate title screen, which I won't lie looks pretty sick, and extra mode, which is just a fancy wording for mirror mode. I hate mirror mode. I never found the way it disorients your muscle memory to be interesting. It's not just me, right? Does anyone actually like mirror mode? The only cool thing this mode does is reverse the traffic of Toad's Turnpike, but funnily enough, I found that extra mode here was actually easier than 150cc. Turns out it actually runs in 100cc. I guess they found the horizontal flipping to be enough difficulty. Well, it isn't. You made me fight tooth and nail through all that excitement to unlock something less exciting. So what's even the point? What's even the point of any of this? You're gonna make me endure harassment from lines of code while driving around in my bad piggy's ass vehicle, having to keep track of other racers' we're so back, we're so over type performance, only to get nothing but a cheap avoid copyright filter on the courses, which I don't even get anything from beating them. It's all meaningless. Nothing ever happens. There's no motivation, so what's stopping me from just coastlining in 4th place? Oh, wait a second. wait a second. Oh no. Wait, this is kind of this is pretty good actually. Wait. Hold on. Okay, you know what? That's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty good. By the way, when you're about to slip from a banana, you can actually pull the brakes to prevent it, and a little music note pops up. I would have thought this was cute, but I just don't care anymore. So to get a recap of each of 64's game modes, Grand Prix is an utterly miserable time, Time Trials gets the job done, Versus is a blast for friends, and Battle Mode is 10 times as such. So if only 1 out of 4 is a blunder, that's not too shabby. Here's the thing though, Grand Prix, especially when this was the only single-player competitive mode, is the most important to get right. It's pretty much the adventure mode or campaign of Mario Kart, of course with the exception of DS where mission mode feels even more so. Giving someone who's playing alone at least half as much fun as playing with others is a huge thing to have. That's part of the reason why I've grown so attached to the Mario Kart series. It's perfectly suitable for any gaming environment, whether it be trying to perfect your skills on your own time, getting those gold trophies and unlocking a variety of cool stuff, or having a riot in the living room with family and friends. But with 64 offering practically zero enjoyment in single player, automatically brings it far lower beneath the Mario Kart games that checks both boxes. Now you could argue that the 4-player fitting a big role in the marketing shows that 64 in particular was more committed to the multiplayer than the single player, and I guess that's fair, but it drastically hurts its longevity and replay value. As the years go by, the ability to get friends together to play games gets harder. They've got stuff to do now, they're like living lives and shit, but I thankfully don't need to reserve Mario Kart for these increasingly rare hangouts with friends. I still boot up DS, 7, and 8 Deluxe for some enjoyable solo races. I'll only go back to 64 if I want an ass beating. I still stand by my immense praise for the aura this game gives, but it's become one of the most irrelevant games for me to actually play. I find no value in fighting for my life against cheating AI while dealing with robust go-kart movement with no satisfying goal to accomplish, and unfortunately, not even the racetracks themselves are enough to save it. I think my coverage on them is a bit overdue, so let's get further into that right now. First thing to note is that there's actually less courses in the previous game, with 16 instead of 20. Now, I like how they started doing 4 tracks in each cup from here on out. I thought 5 was a bit much, but with there still being 4 cups, 64 is tied with Double Dash for the record low in the series. Quantity doesn't necessarily mean quality, of course. 8 Deluxe might have a whopping 96 tracks, but a handful of them is the type of shit you see in the Garfield show. And even with Double Dash's measly selection, I wouldn't call a single one of these courses bad. Both of these games have great track selections, it's just that one is quantity based and the other is quality based. 64, however, is an example of the secret third type, called neither. There are a handful of strong ones, but I can't say I'm too keen on most of them. And this game is also home to some of the lowest lows in all of Mario Kart. Some take half of my life to finish, some are designed in a janky and unpolished state. They just have this overall first draft feeling. The inconveniences of these courses really aren't for me, but I can definitely say they're for someone. I've saved talking about time trials until now because it's relevant to what makes this game super appealing to a certain audience. While the lack of polish is seen as a bad thing to the AVGNs of the world, such as myself, it actually makes for a very interesting field for speedrunners. All the glitches and exploits create some insane cuts. You can clip through this one wall at the start of Wario Stadium, then clip back to the other side to actually beat the course before your hair starts turning gray. There's this downward section at the start of Rainbow Road, and you can use that to jump off to the left and launch yourself light years ahead. I've never pulled it off myself, but just from looking at someone else do it, I feel such euphoria. And that's only the beginning. The dedication of this community led to so many entertaining ways that these courses can be torn apart. From using a shell to send yourself flying over wall collisions, finding loopholes around lap counters, or from sheer brute force and willpower. Even with only the shortcuts allowed for competitive speedrunning, it's still made for a very exciting game to shave as many milliseconds as possible. The fact that there's multiple summoning salt videos for this game speaks for itself. There's a really interesting story behind the speedrunning community that my words can't do justice, so if you haven't already, go watch the summoning salt videos, they're an incredible listen. While it is fascinating how much Mario Kart 64 can get exploited, and I know I'm gonna sound like the fun police here, but this doesn't necessarily make the game better. I mean, it shouldn't be on the player base to make the game fun. There should be an enjoyable game to begin with, and it should be a bad sign that the only single player experience of value is the most unintended approach imaginable. Like, for example, I find fun in playing checkers, but not from the actual game, it's actually really boring, but because I like to throw the checker pieces at my opponent. Of course, that's just based off my personal definition of a good game, which could vary between person to person. I'm not downplaying the value this has to the speedrunner. I can wholeheartedly agree that this game can do a lot for the right person. It's just that I'm not that person. Goodbye.
What? Just like that, the community was in remiss. There was no better speedrun than this. There was no way you could refine the speedrunning tactics for this specific game down any further at all.
The primitive course design tends to have me like them less instead of more. But of course, I don't think this is an entirely poor showing. A decent amount of these I have a pretty fun time with, so I think it'd be fitting if I went through each of these courses to give my analysis on why I think they're either bangers or snoozers. And I don't see a better way to do that than a good old tier list. That's right, this is the course ranking part of the video. And despite there being only 16, I've got a lot to say about them, so I think this is a good checkpoint for the video. You can go grab a snack, get something nice to drink, take a generational shit from your Uber Eats, but if you're ready, I won't waste any more time. Let's start by talking about the worst course in Mario Kart 64. Y'all must be at the edge of your seat wondering what it could possibly be.
This shit look nasty as fuck!
Let's be real, the only correct answer for the worst course in Mario Kart 64 is Wario Stadium. I doubt I'll get any pushback, because you cannot look me in the eye and tell me that this is excellence. It's an empty stadium of dirt, sorrow, and more dirt. There are no obstacles. At all. Sometimes they have bumps that really put you at the edge of your seat. Whoa, slow down, Siggy Shiggy. This is too much for the Star Cup. There's also this big jump. Wow. And by the small chance you don't make it, you have to do a large portion of the track again. Wow. And you can clip into a wall at a certain angle to beat the course in mere seconds. Wow. And if you don't cheat, the course is over 5 minutes long. 5 minutes of this. Wow. And you could endure that whole 5 minutes of front running only for a computer player at the very last second to sneak up behind you, throwing any of your remote efforts in the trash. Wow. Leave it to Mario Kart 64 CPUs to make a terrible track even worse. And the Wario theming is so half-assed. We have a spinning Wario sign somewhere and copy and paste Wario heads along the stadium. These really hit different while playing. They really chip into your descent into madness. Yeah, it's no wonder why Wario Stadium was left untouched for the longest time. I don't know yet how much better the remake and world is going to be, but I saw ramps, so like, it's automatically better, and now the novelty of it being the only non-remade 64 course has dissipated. I can fully abandon this embarrassment of a race course without looking back. And for the record, Vanilla Lake 1 is still worse because while it is brief, it just pisses me off so much more. By the way, if we're gonna keep copying Shay Frilla's, I made a revised list of everything I ranked last place. I don't know how long I'm gonna keep up this bit, but do you know what's scarier than plagiarism? Banshee Boardwalk. Not only because it's a spooky track, but because it's scary how dog shit it is. First off, yeah, it's got a spooky atmosphere to appreciate with the pitch black void and the weird abandoned house that welcomes you in the most unwelcoming fashion. But honestly, it's not even the spookiest track in this game, and the eeriness it's going for quickly becomes irritating. The music being the clearest example of that. It's more noise than music with the insistent knocking and scraping sound.
That shit is fucking trash, dog. Get the fuck off the airwaves.
This is hands down the worst Mario Kart course music of all time, and I doubt anyone could convince me of something else. If you say Tour LA Laps, I will track you down. But how about the track itself? It's the third track of the Special Cup, the penultimate challenge of the game. It'll really test your hold on the shitty controls with the sharp turns and narrow boardwalk. But at the same time, it doesn't. Banshee Boardwalk is some sort of enigma where it both bores me to death and makes me pull my hair out. How is that even possible? Well, let's see. A late game level should be this grand, death-defying test of your skills. No handouts, no mercy. So why the fuck are there guardrails everywhere? I don't know about you, but this is quite a bit of handouts and mercy. I get having guardrails at the beginning because you gotta ease the player in and give them a bit of practice, but they shouldn't be at most of the turns throughout the level. And the moment they decide to take you off the leash, it's at this sharp double turn that has zero guardrails. It comes out of nowhere and the controls sure don't do it any favors. It ends up being the worst of both worlds. It's too forgiving and then it suddenly decides not to be. Just goes from 1 to 100 just like that. There's not enough tight turns either. It feels like we're going straight for way too long. Doesn't get much better inside the spooky house. Just a series of uncomfortable turns and the bats being less of an interesting hazard and more of a nuisance they just throw in your face. The only things I remotely like are the boos that boo all over the place and the big fish that jumps over the boardwalk. Apart from those nice bits, Banshee Boardwalk is a stale ghost track where the difficulty is all over the place, either disappointing, frustrating, or flat out annoying. 3 variations of not fun. Also, pray that nobody gets lightning in this course. So that's 2 tracks in this game that are complete garbage, and I'm glad that we now get to talk about 3 pretty bad courses.
What's this? That D.
Okay, so the lowest D tier course is... Wait, Wait, this can't be right, can it? Rainbow Road? Yeah, sorry, this has to be some sort of mistake because, like, come on, it's Mario Kart 64's Rainbow Road. Such a charming and magical little victory lap. You got the colorful light show of all the characters, they all look so good. You got goofy chain chomps that munch across the road, they can really mess you up. And can't forget about that music, it's such a beautiful melody and it brings back so many memories. Now, yeah, lots of people complain about how long it is, but like, come on. I think people are over-exaggerating, it's not that long. And even if it is a bit drawn out, Rainbow Road is all about the scenery, just taking it all in. All the beautiful sights and amazing sounds. You know, it's just that gamers don't have the patience these days. You see, back when I was a kid, I played through the entirety of Rainbow Road and wish it never ended. Especially when I was playing with all my siblings. God, it was such a fun time with all of us in the living room. I remember afterwards we all walked down to the CVS because there was a CVS in walking distance from our house. And they had an ice cream stand there, so we all got ice cream. I remember my favorite ice cream flavor was Rocky Road. You know, it's like chocolate ice cream and has marshmallows and almond.
26 salmon falling from the sky onto a slime block creates an effect much like a firework, except for the fact that it is salmon. 500.
Elementary school had a bunch of wild students. There was this one kid, I think his name was Kyle. He got really mad and shit. When kids were making fun of him in the playground, he would like chase them around with a traffic cone and throw them. Since the playground was next to the parking lot, so he'd go grab one of the traffic cones. There was this kid who picked his nose all the time. There was this Australian kid who I think was a sociopath. Oh, and there was this one kid whose name was 7, like the number 7. He kept being an asshole to me for months, so one day I had enough and I threw a chair at him.
I have a confession. I am a Christian, but I'm gay. Hey!
Manifest Destiny, Richard Nixon's Watergate. I always found the name to be funny, like, it sounded like Nixon blew up a dam or something and flooded a bunch of houses, but now it's just burglary, stealing information in some hotel, boring shit. Is that what inspired the name for, like, Gamergate, Pizzagate, Elsagate? You guys remember Elsagate? That shit was scary when you really looked into it. I mean, parents had their kids watching some abhorrent shit on their wet iPads instead of, you know, actually taking care of it.
For 100 mil.
Hey, a note! Dear pesky plumbers.
No! But
I want to focus my time on more important stuff, like making YouTube videos and video games and shit. Huh? What? Oh, holy shit, we're done? Jesus Christ! Okay, let's be so for real. S-tier visuals, S-tier music, as a racetrack. Absolutely horrendous. Number 13 is Sherbetland. Did anyone else used to pronounce it like Sherbet? Like it's French or something? I don't know. This course has one thing going for it, and that's the penguins. I love them with all my soul. It's not their fault that this course is bad. It's just so dull. While I gave a whole college lecture on how the N64 limitations makes these courses feel special, it actually makes it worse in Sherbetland's case. It reduces the state of the already visually plain setting of an ice lake. They pretty much took Vanilla Lake 2 and scaled it way up, meaning that the best part being jumping across the cracks is far less impactful, and you just have these ginormous, prolonged sheets of ice where nothing happens. Oh, sorry, my bad. I forgot about this big rock that you have to drive around. Holy shit. The cave section has at least something going for it. You have these ice pillars being circled by two penguins on opposite sides. So in order to not get hit by the penguin that comes into view, you need to pay attention to the penguin you can see to recognize where the other is. It's a great obstacle that tests your pattern recognition. If only you couldn't just hug the left wall to avoid them no matter what. There's just too much cold, dead air that lasts far longer than the actual interesting part. I was considering an F, but, you know, penguin. Also, at least it ends before I become depressed. and Penguin. Number 12, Frappe Snowland. It's a shame that 64 is home to 2 ice courses where neither are good. I was struggling to even write anything about Frappe Snowland because there's barely anything to say. What, do you want me to talk about the snowmen? I don't know, they're pretty understated hazards until that one part where they vomit a bunch of them. This is what it's like walking into a Staples and there's Shaquille O'Neal everywhere. At the end they have this ice crevice you go between, which is cool, I guess. You can't drive on the walls of the crevice because this course hates fun. It abuses these out of bounds zones. I get that you don't want me to take huge cuts, but I feel like you could have let a little bit looser. I want to play in the snow, damn it. Let me feel rewarded for thinking outside the box. I'm only putting this higher than Sherbetland because it is a bit more involved with having more curves, and it actually looks pretty nice. Unlike Sherbetland, the graphic style offers some nice imagery, like the night sky and a cool looking gradient in the snow. But similar to Rainbow Road, prettiness can't carry a pretty uninspired level. And now that we've approached the C tiers, we can hopefully see some more substance than style.
Hola, Panchito. Mira, me llegaron las mangas.
Hey fellow Redditors, r/am I the asshole for not really liking Yoshi Valley? I get the appeal, it's definitely the most unique course in this game. There's not 2, not 3, not 4, but at least 5 different paths you can take that twist and turn around, each with their own length and difficulty. It can make for a very spontaneous race, so much so that not even the referees can keep a tally of who is where, so they leave everyone's placements a mystery until they cross the finish line. I do find the concept of an ambiguous race interesting, putting more focus on exploration and plotting out your own route. But when it's my 20th playthrough, I start to lose that Dora the Explorer in me. Once I figure out which path is optimal and which ones suck, the novelty of exploration plummets. Almost as much as you do when you fall off the path, which is for an eternity. This is the worst part by far. One slip up has you sit and watch as it mocks your mistake, costing you any chance of getting back to first place. What, it makes the course harder? Is this how you do it? Artificially prolonging my punishment? Why don't I make this video longer by placing an ad break here? I have a few grievances with the design of these paths. Like the way this spiral is set up feels like it's leading me to the right, but the way forward is actually to the left. The arrow sign serves more like a band-aid to counteract my reflexes, and the risk-reward shortcut path does not feel as rewarding as it should because I'm also fighting the controls, and again, the consequence is way too heavy-handed with that fall time. Yoshi Valley has some deep-rooted problems, but I at least think the attempt at something this ambitious should be respected. Plus, I really like the look of the field bit and the giant egg. This idea can be done right, and it's proven by Ninja Hideaway. Now this course is goated. The optimal route isn't nearly as obvious, so I find myself improvising on which one I take, especially at this part where getting to this higher level relies on the timing of the spike traps, so you need to quickly change plans if you don't make it up there. Besides, its debut in Mario Kart Tour gave us Ninja Shy Guy. What costume did Yoshi Valley and Tour give us? Ew. As far as beginning racetracks go, Luigi Raceway sure is a beginning racetrack. The map is in the shape of a pinched rubber band. Biggest challenge it has to offer are these 2 long turns, and to give credit, it is a good training ground for drifting. The most notable part is a Luigi blimp that occasionally floats down just above the ground, for you to catch an item box that always gives you a blue shell. I quite like this, it's a nice touch, but it really needed a different spot to land because it's right in front of this item box set, so you'll likely already have the item slot taken up. But there's some other small nods I appreciate, like the Luigi display, the yellow lighting in the tunnel that I probably like a lot more than most people do. Overall pretty basic, but when it's in the same game as these, the simplicity is all the more appreciated. I just feel bad for Luigi. This is the start of him getting the white bread of racetracks in pretty much every game. Some of them are pretty solid, but the theming never does Luigi justice. I mean, it's green. I guess that's his whole personality. He likes green. My stance on Calamari Desert has by far shifted the most over the years. I initially loved it because of the train, and then I grew to hate it because of the train. But after replaying it recently, I think I wrapped back around to loving it ironically. The way it challenges you to beat the train to the intersection so you can have a huge lead, the way that it punishes greed in such a comical showing, the way that you manage to pull the brakes in time and witness the less fortunate, it's fucking hilarious. They knew exactly what they were doing with timing this train in a way to make you think you're gonna make it, but then it just barely cuts you off. And watch these two get absolutely demolished. You can't tell me this isn't peak slapstick. But to be serious for a moment, forcing you to stop in place for a while and wait for the train to pass is objectively counterintuitive to racing, which involves a lot of going forward. The layout is nothing spectacular at all. It's just an oval. Now, there's plenty of room to take huge shortcuts thanks to all the sand, but it doesn't matter if your opponent can catch up in a dime, so I won't let train humor carry it that high in the list, but I think somewhere in the middle is appropriate for a subpar course that's good at making me laugh. This course just brings me joy, which can't be said for almost every course below this. And at number 8 is Choco Mountain. I really wish Choco Mountain was better because I love the setting. You got this brown mountain that's either made of chocolate or it's simply named after it, coated in heavy fog that gives it some mystique, accompanied by some real fun countryside tunes. It's a recipe for excitement, but I can't help but feel they kind of fumbled the recipe. You already know what I'm talking about. That one ledge. I think it's in the same situation as the train for Calamari Desert. It is pretty goofy that it drops you into an earlier part of the road and makes you lose a bunch of progress, especially in multiplayer if you manage to push someone down and they start seething. But I also find it to be in the same ballpark as the Yoshi Valley Chasm, where it's kinda cheap and far too punishing for one misstep. Interesting thing about this is that they actually built guardrails for lower speed classes, so that makes it clear to me that this ledge wasn't an oversight, but was designed for difficulty, and I can't say this is the best way to do it, especially in a game where the computer players don't give a shit you're running behind. Like, I get that you're not going to fall if you're remotely good at this game, but it's a poor method of creating challenge nonetheless. And I also get psychic damage when I touch one of the walls while airborne and it knocks me over. And as I mentioned before, the enclosed landscape makes for often dysfunctional red shells. Choco Mountain is a real mixed bag. Love the theme as the only person who actually liked the aesthetic of Choco Island. What can I say? I love brown courses in Mario Kart. It's all the shoddy features that holds this one back to being any more than almost good. Number 7 is Mario Raceway. To me, Mario Raceway is the definition of a baseline good course, and nothing more. But at this point, I'll welcome it with open arms. It's a decent amount of fun with some tight turns around the hills and around this big mushroom. The sprawl of grassy and sandy terrain outside the road can make for some huge shortcuts. Weird to say, but the best part about Mario Raceway is to try to stay off the road as much as you can. Apart from that, you have a harmless circuit with some nice Mario-themed set pieces spread throughout. Oh, and I do really like all the balloons in the opening. Gives some more life to the course in a game full of whoa, so liminal. And at 6th place, we have Moo Moo Farm. It's kind of hard to justify putting what's basically a dirt circle in the top 6, but I don't know, for some reason the simplicity of Moo Moo Farm works well for me. My favorite part is definitely these Monty moles that pop in and out of the ground. They're lined up on the inside of the circle, so they make the obviously optimal strategy of hugging the wall have a lot of risk to it. I really like this mechanic as it turns what would be a really easy course to master a bit tougher, because hitting a mole is actually pretty punishing. They send you flying. And in a racetrack this concise, you really can't afford big screw-ups. Sadly, that's really the only thing this course is going for. I guess I like the road being all bumpy. The bridges are pretty cool too, even if you don't actually drive on them. And I like how this map looks with the Windows XP aesthetic and all the glorious cows in the background. Not gonna lie, I kinda wish they chose to remake this for Mario Kart World instead of Moo Moo Meadows again. You still have cow representation, and it hasn't been remade since the DS. But I get it, it's a meme. I'm hip with the memes. In 5th, we have DK's Jungle Parkway. DK's Jungle Parkway felt like the most organic course in this game. Like it was an all-natural jungle that had each section have some sort of jungly commotion. You start the race off by driving past this pretty nice river. The ferry is such a nice touch. I'm sure we all tried to crash into it from the big jump, only for your childhood wonder to get crushed finding out it has no collision. The big jump is actually the worst part about Jungle Parkway. It's a great spectacle at first flying over that small island, but then it drops you off at this spot where you have to take an immediate left. It's such an awkward situation where you have to timidly prop yourself in the right direction. I'm sure the pro Mario Kart 64ers have a way to keep your momentum at this part, but I don't find it worthwhile to figure it out. It's an abrupt pace breaker, but thankfully the barrel gets rolling afterwards. You have this deep jungle path where going off the road has the natives throw rocks at you. It's a funny bit, and repelling the rocks with the star feels great. Up next is the bridge by this amazing waterfall, and it's a tight spot that's the perfect place to force players into bananas. At And lastly is this big U-turn inside the cavern, where you have this final test of greed with trying to cut the turn up the hill. If it's steep enough, you'll go tumbling down, leaving you to lie and reflect on your own hubris. I like this bit a lot, especially because at the very end, where it could make or break your run, Jungle Parkway has a good variety of scenery and different challenges, just held back by one glaring spot that makes me a bit reluctant to play this course again. Oh yeah, the music being 10 seconds of jungle noises sure was a decision, but I think it helps give the course more of a calm and ambient feeling. It sure isn't going on my playlist though. And now it's time for the A tiers. I did say I fancy a handful of the courses, and these are the ones I'm talking about. Starting with Royal Raceway. It's like Mario Raceway, but for girls. I'm a boy and this sucks. Even though I think it's a bit excessive to have 3 raceways, I think this is easily the best one. I love the pink sky first and foremost, and this definitely feels like the first step into the late game. The track is plotted out with some fun, challenging turns, but not too tricky that it has you fighting against the physics. But I'm sure we all remember Royal Raceway for 2 things. 1, the ginormous jump. You know me and my big jumps. This is the most stimulating part of this game to me. I love hopping into the jump and landing so hard you do a big bounce, and who could forget the poof? Sometimes your character screams from landing, which is a riot, and the other main event is what follows right after, being able to drive up to Peach's castle. To this day, I still think this is an amazing touch. It's almost the exact same scale as the one from Mario 64. I imagine they created this whole courtyard just for the podium cutscene and decided to actually put it in a race course for some nice world building. There's absolutely no benefit to taking this detour, but it's awesome they let you go here nonetheless. Bad news! The castle in the remake, it's closed off.
Oh no. Anyway, last week...
This last part before the finish line has a lot of tension, because going off the road will have you drop into the lake or be pushed down a slope. I've had runs get completely ruined from this part. They do not fuck around. Exactly what I mean when it feels like we're stepping into the late game. All around, you got a very solid course here. It has large scope, offers a good challenge, and has, oh my god, reference of game I like. When I was talking about vibes in Whimsy, I used Toad's Turnpike as an example multiple times. Because man, this course is otherworldly. It does not feel like a real place at all, and that's what makes it so enamoring. This infinite highway under the night sky. I love how you can interpret the skybox as either the sun rising or setting, or if it's lights illuminating from a distant city. That's what I find so unique about this stage. They took the mundane act of a late night commute through an elongated freeway and gave it this soothing magic. And how the music adds to that should go without saying. Nothing hits quite like this music. If I'm ever out somewhere and it's nighttime, this is one of my first choices of music to listen to. But there's a huge contrast between the vibes and the gameplay, because this is actually the most murderous track in the game. It's the first of the traffic courses in the series, having cars and trucks on the track to merge around. And you can really tell this was the first, because too much was not a thing they're worrying about. These trucks are gigantic, and they really make you feel the impact from getting hit by one face first. It only gets more unhinged when the last turn merges from 3 lanes to 2. It's why I'm forgiving for the basic figure 8 shape. It's good to introduce such a present hazard in a simple layout. I'm very torn on this course's difficulty, however. The critical game reviewer in me sees this as too overwhelming as the first in the Flower Cup, and losing all momentum from getting hit by a car can make for a frustrating experience. Mr. Likes to Have Fun, however, is saying something else. Like, you have to admit, car crashes are top-tier comedy. The brutality of getting swept by a school bus, or even getting comboed by 2 trucks, seeing another person getting annihilated absolutely sends me. The adrenaline rush from trying to squeeze between those 2 lanes at the end, and they drive against you in extra mode? Rare Extra Mode W? You really have to be something special to give such powerful, conflicting emotions between thinking about it to actually getting involved. It might sound like I'm justifying this course's ranking the same way I did with Calamari Desert, by just saying it's funny, but the key difference is that when you remove the funny from the train, you're just left with a great inconvenience to the race. But when you remove the shock value from Toad's Turnpike's cars, you're still left with a consistently engaging and dangerous obstacle, even if it's admittedly a bit too aggressive. While I find thrill and shenanigans from these overbearing threats, I also understand if someone finds them to be too overwhelming. Turnpike has a real you either fuck with it or you don't energy, but I do. I really do. The feelings this course gives really can't be recreated, and it's a shame that this course never got remade. That's right. Never. There is no Toad's Turnpike remake. What, that? What? Nah, that's Toad's Dumb Fucking City. It's okay, they get mixed up a lot. In a game that can be mentally draining to sit through, with standing courses that surpass 5 minutes, every race feeling like a war zone, it makes me love the serenity of Cuba Chuba Beach all the more, with its relaxing tropical tunes and the vast horizon of the ocean. All that talk about the isolating feeling from earlier. Cuba Chuba Beach is, in my eyes, the way to make a Mushroom Cup track. It's easy for a novice to clear, but it has a high skill ceiling to get the pro gamers coming back. Like DK's Jungle Parkway, it has a mighty test of greed. We have this ramp where if you launch yourself with just the right angle, you can land in this tunnel and come out from the waterfall, giving you a huge lead. It's pretty tricky to pull off since it's at a weird angle compared to the other ramps, and the hole is pretty small too. I end up being a complete loser on every attempt, but when that rare Sam W kicks in, it's the best I ever feel playing this game. And the best part of all is being so far from the other computer players means you can have peace and quiet for longer than 10 seconds. It's worth it just for that alone. Although it would be nice if these dash ramps were, you know, actually dash ramps. This cool flashy pattern makes me think it's gonna launch me, but it just ends up feeling really cheap. At the end of the day, it still offers some fun shortcuts, but it would have helped if they had a wooden pattern or something to show that's just a normal ramp and not a dash ramp. I really like how the beach setting allows for a very open race course. No part feels all that linear. You can stay along the sand, or you can go for a fun little swim. This course knows when to let loose. It doesn't always have to be this tightly structured and streamlined racetrack. It's just a vast shoreline with enticing challenges throughout. I love that it offers both a soothing and challenging experience, depending on what you're looking for that day. But the funny thing is, the number 1 slot is a complete contrast of tone, yet I love it even more. We'll be actually getting into 64's one and only S tier track. You all know it, you all love it, it's... I found so many parts about Mario Kart 64 to age horribly upon replay, but miraculously, my thoughts and feelings on its iteration of Bowser's Castle hold up heavenly. I can't say for certain if this is the best Bowser's Castle per se, but it's absolutely the weirdest and creepiest. I'm aware I'm going to be sounding like the SpongeBob roller coaster image, so I want to be clear that I'm talking about how spooky it is relative to Super Marcus. The minimal geometric look of the game does a great service to the uncanny feel of the castle and all of its rooms. It's like this set of random hallways and rooms that don't really feel natural together. What also makes this castle so weird is what it chooses to focus on. Like, a garden and just a whole lot of thwomps? That's another thing. These thwomps behave in such an out-of-pocket way. They actually move around and shit. You can't do that. Stop! Oh, and if you happen to get crushed by them, they beat you into the ground and start laughing. They're enjoying this shit. That damn laugh, man. Especially when you pass by that one room with the sidestepping thwomps and you can still hear it echoing through the halls. You have to admit it's pretty chilling. Fun little fact, by the way, it's the same laugh as Wario but pitched down. And of course, you can't talk about this course without talking about the thwomp behind bars, Marty. That's his canon name, by the way. Anyone denouncing that is plain wrong. Now I have such nostalgia of going down this rabbit hole on YouTube with conspiracies of ways to send bail for Marty.
Oh my...
There's so much mystery and intrigue behind everything in this castle, and thankfully the actual race course carries its own weight. As it should be, it's quite difficult. That one room with the bridge over the lava makes my cheeks clench. The spiral tower does feel pretty rough at first, but with enough practice it can feel pretty satisfying to drift around. And it has an exciting finisher, jumping over the lava and around these structures with such a great view of the endless void. And there you have it. A Bowser Castle like no other, a Mario Kart track like no other. You got difficulty perfectly matching the setting, a bizarre take and emphasis on thwomps, a haunting soundtrack, all these bits and pieces that get your imagination stirring. It all culminates to not only the most memorable course in this game, not only my favorite course in this game, but one of my favorites in all of Mario Kart. And I'm very glad that we got to end this review on such a positive note. Oh shit, it's the end? And you watched all of it? That's kinda awesome, man. I don't think I've played a game that's aged worse than Mario Kart 64. As a kid, this was my bread and butter. I'd find myself immersed in these surreal landscapes paired with the ethereal soundtrack, and there were missing pieces in the world that left me speculating, and it made for an unforgettable time with the family. It makes sense why, because when you're a kid, at least from my POV, you treat these kind of sandbox-like games as playgrounds, a space to explore and have fun. It would explain why I'm mostly stuck with time trials, and if I did play Grand Prix, I would have to be on 50cc, so it wasn't too scary. But growing up, you approach games differently. You want to master your skills, beat anything the game throws at you, and experience all it has to offer. And once I approached this game as an actual game with skills to learn and goals to achieve, I found out that This kind of blows. To say it's an awful game would be hyperbolic, but I definitely can't say it's a good one. Although it does have some remarkable high points, it's not without the N64 magic, its visual and music direction are unmatched, and neither is that battle mode. But nostalgia and one good side mode can't carry an entire game, especially when the most important contents are absolutely botched. There's a pitiful selection of racetracks where I don't want to touch like half of them, and the single player is broken in so many respects. Uncomfortable controls, random things causing you to spin out, CPUs with zero chill, with nothing but disappointment as a reward for your troubles. And while yeah, some of these unhinged elements make for an exciting multiplayer match, and multiplayer is a huge factor in Mario Kart, but as I've said before, that's not the only thing that matters in Mario Kart. This series should not be reduced to the type of game that you only pop in and out for parties. The objectives of getting gold cups and unlocking new things plays a huge role. So when Mario Kart 64 is a title where both the journey and destination is shitty, the multiplayer being fun but far from the only game where you can say that, and having only one side mode being truly superior, I'm afraid that Mario Kart 64 has to be the weakest in the whole series. At the very least, out of the games we've covered so far, it's getting the lowest score, but I really can't see any future games rating lower. While I do think this game is kinda bad now, that doesn't mean that Mario Kart 64 was never good. If it was always shit, why has this game gotten so much praise? How come this supposedly bad Mario Kart got all the glory from the internet a while back? And why couldn't my younger self ever put it down? Is it nostalgia? Most likely yes, but I feel like when someone has nostalgia for something, it comes from experiencing at least some genuine quality it has to offer. It's clearly a product for its time, but I bet it was a fantastic product. Standards for video games naturally rise over time, both subjectively from the player growing up and their sensibilities changing, and from the general precedents of the industry shifting. So maybe in the late 90s and 2000s, especially when you're a child who's only asking for a simplistic racing game you could play with your friends, maybe this was all you ever needed. It was all I ever needed. So even if today's standards make Mario Kart 64 an unbearable game more often than not, I wouldn't take back the time I had with it all those years ago. And if you like this game purely from its service as a time capsule, I really can't blame you. Some games can age like milk, but that's okay. I still feel content from enjoying it way back when. Having a miserable time with it now does not reverse the fond memories I had with it. I may not think Mario Kart 64 is a good game, not today, but I'm very much grateful that I was there when all I ever cared about was busting Marty out of jail. And when even the weakest entry in Mario Kart can at least offer something special to me, that's just a testament to how phenomenal this series is. And it means that we can only go up from here, with Mario Kart Super Circuit. It's the Mario Kart that I've played the least, so I cannot wait to not replay it soon because I think I'll be busy playing the actual fun game.
I can't feel my nipples. I'm not lying to y'all.